welcome back to Ask Amy. In today's Ask Amy, I want to address a bunch of questions that I have. So I don't have one picked out to read, but I've gotten quite a few questions in the past week or so from people who are really worried and concerned and just going through a really hard time right now with all the change and uncertainty that's happening. So the thing that I could make up a question that would capture what they all say. The thing that's sort of in common in all of them is a bunch of worry and a bunch of thinking ahead to what if these things happen. By and large, right this minute, everyone's okay. And when I say by and large, I actually really want to say no exceptions. Even if you're sick, no matter what's happening in this moment, we're okay. We all are. We kind of deeply know that. It's when our mind gets involved and starts going way ahead and thinking what if and going off into the future and making things up and having all kinds of hype around this very moment when we don't feel safe. So the thing about the whole what if thinking, honestly, in this moment, we're fine. It's only when we start what ifing all of these things in the future that we aren't. And the thing about that is that if you're gonna have your mind make up a bunch of what if thinking and then let it scare you, doesn't it make sense to kind of look at it on the other side too? Like, that's made up as well, but what if, like, we're all okay? Honestly, what if this is a scary time for many people because there's so much uncertainty and their mind is going crazy? But when their mind settles down, we're all still just doing the best we can see to do in any given moment. Like, what if this is a temporary change to our lives, like so many that we've all been through and survived just fine in the past? We've been through so many temporary changes in our lives as a globe like this one, and for sure personally all the time, we have things happen in life and we have to readjust. What if we're going to move through this exactly like we always have? Like, what if this is a chance to just see, wow, look once again how resilient humans are, how resilient life is. We feel stuff, we get all caught up and confused, we move through it, we figure things out, we do the best we can. Everything in life wants to rebound. For sure, our physical health, our mind goes back to home base, like our money, our markets, our supply and demand, like everything in life, physical and before the physical, seems to have this drive to just get back to balance, to rebound, to have a homeostasis. Like, that hasn't gone away. There's nothing that's threatening that whatsoever. Not at all. So if you're going to do all the what if games, you have to kind of at least give yourself a chance to do it on the other side as well. I think all we have to do, like I wrote, I'll share the link to my article if you haven't read it. Like, all we're ever doing in life, this is no different than any other time. All we're ever doing in life is just doing what makes sense to us, that's right in front of us to do. Using common sense, doing what makes sense in this moment. Everything else is our mind and our imagination running away, thinking ahead, thinking our common sense isn't enough. We need to do more. And it's so fascinating because we see this all the time like, I see it a lot with people I work with habits, for example, where you have an addiction or a big habit, let's say, and it's like, hey, okay, when your mind starts going there and creating all this urgency around your habit or your addiction, just do what makes sense. Just come back here. Now, that never feels like enough. To a mind that's up here going nuts, being in this moment and doing what makes sense, the next best step, never, ever, ever will feel like enough. Because look, it doesn't, because your mind's screaming, your mind's throwing a temper tantrum and freaking out. And the right here action is always just simple and clear and not dramatic and not necessarily huge at all. So it just feels like such a mismatch. There's no way your screaming mind is going to look at some very sane, subtle, simple decision to just do the next thing that makes sense and think that's okay. Your mind will never get on board with that. But that's okay. We don't need your mind to get on board with it. We need you to see that you don't need to listen to your mind, that this in the moment common sense action makes absolute sense, and in fact it's the only thing that ever makes sense. It's what gets us through and has always gotten us through everything in life. So with habits and anxiety and all those things, as people are starting to find freedom from them, in the beginning there's always this time where it's like, that's not enough. I need massive action. I need to go cold turkey, or I need to like never feel this feeling again, or whatever that is. And that's just trying to match this drama. We don't need to match that drama. There's nothing drastic needed right now. Do what makes sense. And that just is true on so many levels. Not only is that enough, it's the only thing that ever really helps. As soon as we try to up the ante and match the drama and make some drastic action, unless common sense tells you that a drastic action is needed, it usually isn't. So really, I think it's so cool to see the parallels in so many things that we go through, and to just see that everything's fine right now. Honestly, I know that sounds insane if you're watching the news 24/7 and if you're up in the drama of things, but right now in this moment, just do what makes sense, just take the next step. That's all we're ever doing anyway. It's just that right now our mind is looking way out ahead, and it always is going to look scarier and harder and more dramatic from way up there. So just live your life the way you always have been. Nothing is really different for most of us in our moment to moment life. And now circumstantially, a lot is different. I get that. But beyond the circumstances, even just in a moment, I don't know, I still feel like me. I still feel okay beyond all this. I know you all do too. Like, nothing is shifted in a gigantic way unless, we're up here thinking about it in that way. So I hope this is helpful. I'll link to the article I wrote because it has helped a lot of people. And I didn't really have a formal written question the way I typically do. But again, so many questions sound exactly the same with slightly different worries and concerns. So I thought it might be helpful to just kind of put them all together and speak to them that way. So thanks so much for listening. Take care. Just lay low. Take this opportunity to just get quiet. It's kind of awesome when you really look within, when you really let all the distractions and the busyness and the worries and concerns just fall by the wayside. It's like we all get to kind of hunker down and just look in a direction we don't typically get to look in. So there's a lot of good in this too, a lot of potential. So thanks so much for listening, and I'll be back next week. Bye, everyone.